data manipulation language statements. So DML statements enable the users to manipulate the data as organized by the appropriate model, right? So whenever you need to perform some manipulation of the database, we need to go for DML statements. So you are familiar with the DML statements, right? So the DML statements, they provide different types of access, like insertion of new records into the database, right? So we'll be able to add new information into the database, deletion of information from the database, right? Retrieval of information from the database, and modification of information stored in the database, right? So basically DML statements, it includes insert command in SQL, delete command in SQL, update command in SQL, and select command in SQL, right? So these are the four types of access provided by a DML statement. So insert command to insert some new information into the database, delete command to delete some information from the database, update command to modify the information stored in the database, and retrieval of information in the database. So we use select star from table name, or select star from table name order by some attribute, ascending, descending, and so on, right? So retrieval of information also comes under DML. So in DML, basically we have two types of DML: procedural DML and non-procedural DML, right? So there are basically two types of data manipulation language statements. So procedural data DML, it requires a user to specify what data is needed and how to get those data, right? So procedural DML means you need to specify what data is needed and how to get those data. Whereas in the case of non-procedural DML or declarative DML, it requires a user to specify what data is needed without specifying how to get those data, right? So that's the difference between procedural DML and non-procedural DML, right? So in procedural DML, you are expected to specify what data is needed and how to get those data. And whereas in the case of non-procedural DML, you need to specify only what data is needed without specifying how to get those data, right? Again, you know, a query definition. Query is a statement requesting the retrieval of information, right? So database is about storing of information and retrieval of information efficiently, right? So the objective of any commercial database management system is to store and retrieve the information efficiently. So query is a statement requesting the retrieval of information. So a query can also be used to store some information in the database. So mostly it's about retrieval of information from the database, right? So the portion of a DML that involves information retrieval is a query language, right? So usually in data manipulation language, we perform information retrieval, and it is called a query language.